A few years back, you couldn't go a day online without seeing a Bored Ape. These fairly ugly mix and match creations were the figurehead of the NFT movement during the pandemic, as they would often sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. With A-list celebrities adopting the viral digital assets, the movement's supporters soon began to claim they would be worth millions of dollars in no time. But this of course didn't happen. And looking at sales today, they are now worth 1/10 of what they sold for 3 years ago. So what happened? Well, through my research, I discovered what appears to be the untold story of how an elaborate wealthy troll began a campaign which completely tanked this multi-billion-dollar project, with the ramifications still being felt to this very day. And today we'll dig deep into the important lessons this story bears. But before we go any further in today's video, I just want to give a shout out to my sponsor, Raycon. It's been a while since I last spoke about Raycon on this channel, and their newest model of earbuds are better than ever before. They now have 32-hour battery life and multi-point connectivity that lets you pair 2 devices at once. On top of this, they have a quick charge function that gives you 90 minutes of battery life in just 10 minutes of charging. And my personal favorite addition is the new and improved active noise cancellation. I like this feature so much because it gives me clear audio even if I'm at the gym or on an airplane. And the best part is, Raycons start at just half the price of other premium audio brands. For this most recent pair, I've gotten a customized Galaxy-themed case for it, and I'm really enjoying this product. Or of course, you could just click that same link in the description down below. I'd really recommend it since you get a 30-day money-back guarantee if you don't like the product, so you really have nothing to lose. Before going any further, I think it would be useful to give a refresher on what an NFT is since they haven't been relevant for several years. In short, non-fungible tokens are digital assets verified using blockchain technology. Unlike cryptocurrencies, which are identical to each other, NFTs are meant to be individually distinct. This creates a system where ownership of an item can be authenticated and exchanged. The concept emerged in 2014 as a method to sell artwork in their digital form. However, it wouldn't catch on until a series of high-profile sales near the start of 2021 during the global pandemic. The trend is often credited to an artist named Beeple, who sold $500,000 in crypto art in 5 minutes. This gave massive exposure to the technology, and the marketplace exploded. That March, he sold an art piece for $69 million, becoming the 3rd most expensive living artist. It wasn't long until everything was being sold as an NFT, from old internet memes to virtual real estate. This craze revived interest in an early project from 2017 called CryptoPunks. They were basically collectibles with a variety of random traits, some rarer than others. Originally given out for free, many have now been sold for millions of dollars. This inspired many to take their formula and start their own series, with the most successful being Yuga Labs' Bored Ape Yacht Club. Yuga was so successful they eventually bought out the creators of CryptoPunks, now owning the rights to both. Bored Ape Yacht Club launched in April of 2021, announcing the sale of 10,000 NFTs. Each ape granted access to a digital club with members-only benefits. The project saw rapid growth over the summer, intersecting with the broader NFT craze. Early owners got exclusive drops like the Mutant Ape collection, exploiting people's fear of missing out. The status attracted influencers and celebrities, who showed off their apes on social media. This led to a massive boom over the summer, with regular headlines of increasingly higher figure sales. That September, a collection of 107 Bored Apes appeared at the Sotheby's digital auction. It sold for $24.4 million. There was a lot of excitement for what seemed on the horizon, which included many creative ambitions. You see, buying an ape also grants you full ownership to its intellectual property. This concept was a huge point of contention among critics and fanatics alike. A popular argument against NFTs was that if anyone could save the original, it was basically pointless. This applied to most NFTs where buyers weren't actually acquiring the copyright or trademark, making it pretty useless. To give them some credit, Bored Apes felt different, with those invested in the project able to dismiss these widely held positions. Another thing that made these monkeys different than other NFTs was many of the owners were celebrities themselves, who were fully intent on using their new cartoon mascots. 2 Chainz produced an animated series titled The Red Ape Family. The show consisted of 3 episodes, each sold as their own separate NFTs. It takes place in the future where Earth is destroyed and a family of bored apes moves to Mars. The cast also has a few lazy lions for diversity. The first episode begins with a flashback where our protagonist Chucky steals a flash drive from an NFT art museum.
Gold, I ain't seen that shit in years.
He gives it to Winky, his wife, who reveals it holds the most valuable NFT ever created. With this, they celebrate as their family can finally leave Earth. They head to the space airport, and the cartoon ends once they reach Mars. The episode is 6 minutes long, with an additional 2 minutes of credits. It's pretty subpar, noticeably reusing the same voice clip over the span of a minute. The description lists every single Bored Ape actor's NFT. Understandably, many suspected their main goal was not to create a cartoon, but to generate hype so they could make money. This will be an ongoing theme. That meant few cared to watch their other episodes. Outside crypto spaces, people were more likely to have seen a video about the Red Ape family than the actual show itself. The second episode has a long intro acknowledging the backlash before calling critics virgin trolls.
People hated it. I saw another universe too, royally fucked by the way. Creatures called trolls, who were trapped in a thing called YouTube.
Poor things.
No, they were assholes. Virgins making reaction videos in their mother's basements, all talking about how shit we are.
The project at least deserves some credit for fulfilling all 3 episodes promised. There were a flood of projects themed around primates, and not all of them tied to Yuga Labs. Evolved Ape was so successful it netted $2.7 million. The NFT was sold with promises of a 2D fighting game. This turned out to be a scam, and the culprit got away with it. Another similar example to this around the same time was Ape Fight Club, a 3D NFT fighting game which went viral for its uncanny art style. The project was immediately compared to Evolved Ape. This didn't stop people from buying it, however. Their official Twitter page is now owned by someone calling them scammers. NFTs in crypto were a lucrative business at this point. Well, at least if you were the one pulling the rug pull. And inevitably, cyber criminals took notice. That painted a huge target on the back for people who didn't know how to properly protect their non-fungible tokens. Major news, all 3 of these Bored Apes were hacked tonight over Discord. Guys posing as buyers in Discord were helping me troubleshoot a problem we thought was happening. They walked me through language settings in my MetaMask and had me choose an option and took everything. The best part of a con like this is there's literally no repercussions for doing it other than paying the ransom. The only way a marketplace can intervene is by flagging the NFT as stolen. Since they usually had to reach out publicly to these marketplaces to have action done, the rest of the internet could publicly laugh at them. One particular tweet went viral as the most popular meme making fun of these types. "I've been hacked! All my apes gone! This just sold, please help me!" A man named Kramer fell victim to a phishing scam, losing 15 of his Bored Apes, valued at $2.2 million at the time. The trolls piled on, downloading the image and telling him to stop using it. The man was able to retrieve a few of his monkeys with the help from unknowing buyers, but no greater justice was ever served. The next ape-related creative output came from Snoop Dogg and Eminem. The rappers hadn't collaborated in over 20 years despite their similar pop culture relevance. By chance though, they both had Bored Apes, and with that they recorded a song together, which got a music video where they turn into their monkeys. The NFTs reappeared when they performed this song at the VMAs. Snoop named his Dr. Bombay, even getting a mascot costume to perform with him on stage. This turned into his own original ice cream brand marketed around the ape. Needless to say, the craze was embraced by the mainstream. There was no escape, even showing up on billboards in Times Square. In the early weeks of 2022, Paris Hilton surprised audience members on The Tonight Show with their own NFTs.
We're part of the same community. We're both apes.
I love it.
This is my ape.
Yours is so cool. I love the red heart sunglasses. I love the captain hat.
Not Bored Apes, mind you, but they also discussed that. This wasn't unanimous in Hollywood, though, as some celebrities straight up laughed at the idea.
Like when you think about the concept of digital scarcity and things that are, they can't be copied.
That are easily reproduced.
Well, but they're not the same.
In early 2022, the floor price to buy the cheapest ape was over $280,000. It became the world's most popular NFT collection, passing $1 billion in total sales. Yuga Labs was able to raise $450 million in funding at a $4 billion valuation. This newfound wealth led many to wonder where the project actually came from, given its creators were mostly anonymous. With a little bit of digging, you would find out that the two core founders went by the pseudonyms Gordon Goner and Gargamel. They spoke to outlets sharing a few particular details about themselves. They grew up together in Florida, both had literary aspirations, and were now in their 30s. There were two other engineer co-founders named Emperor Tomato Ketchup and No Sass. In February of 2022, BuzzFeed published an investigation into their identities. Yuga Labs was incorporated in Delaware to an address associated with a man named Greg Solano. Greg, as it turns out, was none other than Gargamel. Gordon was linked to a man named Wiley Arono. The company confirmed their identities, exposing them to be fairly ordinary people. There really wasn't anything scandalous about them in the article. This sparked immense backlash though, as many felt it was essentially doxing. Though I would argue if you're running a $4 billion company that's infiltrating Hollywood, the public has a right to know who you are. The two were able to embrace this unexpected turn of events. A month later, Yuga Labs announced an NFT metaverse called Otherwise. The reveal came in a surprisingly good-looking concept trailer. Their metaverse amounts to an MMORPG made to sound more complicated than it really is. Probably because you can't raise as much money from investors if you just tell them you're making a video game. Their ecosystem would run on ApeCoin, a brand new cryptocurrency. The sky was the limit, and it wasn't long until these ventures left the metaverse. Eventually, there was Monkey Beer, Ape Water, you name it. A particularly ambitious business was Bored and Hungry, an NFT-themed restaurant in the real world. The store opened in April with a clear pitch. They would accept payment in Ethereum and ApeCoin. The food was apparently pretty good, but most were unconvinced by their gimmick. In fact, while the store had regulars, most were completely unaware of what an NFT was. Where the story really became humorous was when, 2 months after it opened, Bored and Hungry announced that they would no longer accept crypto in the midst of the market crash. The restaurant survived until 2024, when it closed down so the chain could shift focus to Asia and the Middle East regions. Strangely, this coincided with the launch of an unrelated Bored Ape restaurant in Miami called Bored Cuban. To go back to media ventures for a bit, Coinbase announced their own project during the peak. They revealed a series of short films called the D-Gen Trilogy. The first was widely panned, even by those in crypto. The series was put on hold after this, and given there's never been an update, seemingly for good. This wasn't the only show to face such turmoil. The actor Seth Green, who's most notable for creating Robot Chicken, had several Bored Apes. With these, he began creating a show called White Horse Tavern. It used animation and live action to bolster an otherwise unremarkable premise. However, just before it was meant to be revealed, Green fell victim to a phishing scam himself and lost 4 NFTs, including 3 of his Bored Apes. The trailer premiered at a conference anyway, even though he technically held no ownership to the rights anymore. While he was ultimately able to buy back the main characters, it didn't come easy. By then, it had already been sold to someone else. He pressured the new owner to sell the NFT back, naming the character Fred Simeon. After several public legal threats, they finally complied, selling Fred back for $100,000 more than what Seth originally paid. The show was never heard of again. This was yet another case of a high-profile scam. In April of 2022, the official Bored Apes Instagram account was hacked. It posted a link to a fake airdrop, managing to steal 91 NFTs, worth roughly $3 million at the time. These headlines were a stark warning to many of the otherwise technology-illiterate owners. The year started with Line Goes Up, an excellent 2-hour video essay by Dan Olson about the problem with NFTs. The video went viral, garnering 15 million views, and it shifted public opinion and refused many optimistic views on the technology. While its exact impact is unclear, having Bored Ape as the center of the viral takedown certainly didn't help. Several outlets, including NPR, even started going to Dan as an expert on the subject rather than NFT charlatans. That summer, Bored Apes lost its status as the leading NFT project, and they were quickly embroiled in a completely new scandal that had been building over the past year. Ryder Ripps is a web artist with a knack for publicity. His agency, OK Focus, was notorious for their PR stunts in the early 2010s. Their clients include Google, Smirnoff, and Soylent, designing the meal replacement's original branding. The man also got engaged to controversial rapper Azealia Banks in 2021, only for the two to break it off a month later. It was announced just days after they sold a sex tape as an NFT. With the crypto craze taking off that summer, there was no way for the artist to escape the Bored Apes. He even bought one himself. This curiosity unraveled into an obsession as he began to wonder if he was seeing things that weren't there. But digging only seemed to reinforce his beliefs, and eventually he decided it was the truth. This is when, on January 14th, 2022, Ripps launched a site under the domain GordonGoner.com. By going to this website, you'll see the headline, "Bored Ape Yacht Club is racist and started by neo-Nazis." The page is very simple visually, resembling a Word document. In it, the artist paints a very convincing conspiracy. The act of disparaging someone by comparing them to an ape/monkey goes back hundreds of years. There is a word for it, simionization. You might think simionization is something of a past era, but racists are still comparing black people to monkeys today, such as the trend in Europe of throwing bananas at black soccer players. The banner compares several Bored Apes to old racist caricatures. There's a vague superficial resemblance, but it could simply be the result of randomly assigned traits. Ripps points out that the gold chains trait is called hip-hop in the universe, while the Japanese headband is sushi chef. He argues that the letters actually say kamikaze. The site links several viral tweets, and many dated weeks before his website went live. It makes one wonder if the renewed interest had any influence on his motive. That NFT shit seems racially motivated, cause why is it all monkeys? That monkey NFT shit be looking like some Sambo racist shit to me. All I am going to say is that Bored Ape Yacht Club racism convo has been had since day one. Folks just didn't care because it was the black folks talking about it. Ryder himself said in response to the Twitter outcry, "I'll pay someone 1 Ethereum to calculate the probability of all the Yuga Labs Nazi-related stuff and document it." Rip then explains the history between crypto and white supremacists. These suspicions were the start of his investigation. He presents 10 arguments, which I'll summarize for the sake of clarity. The main thesis is that the project is filled with dog whistles and coded messages. He writes, "The symbols, content, and attitude in the images themselves share alt-right ideology and war references." Ripps describes one trait as a traditionalist German helmet. It's a pickelhaube worn by Prussian and German soldiers in the 19th century. This isn't much on its own, but functions as part of a bigger picture. The video game has bananas made to look like swastikas. Their Rolling Stone magazine cover shows rats with gold, which he felt was similar to anti-Semitic stereotypes. Ripps also said the cover showed an ape with a Nazi hat on it, writing, "No other militia in history had worn this style hat with a skull emblem." The provocateur goes on to compare their logo to a Nazi symbol. The Bored Ape skull and crossbones had the same number of teeth as the Nazi one, 18, which the ADL calls an alphanumeric code for Hitler. It's rather obscure, originating from British prisons. The weakest of these supposed dog whistles is their use of Hawaiian shirts. He accuses them of mimicking the outfit of a far-right militia called the Boogaloo Boys. This is his only proof for the claim, since Hawaiian shirts are a fitting piece of attire for a yacht club. The rest of his case fixates on the creators, who were pretty unknown at the time. He notes they rewrote history, so the official launch date was April 30th, the day Hitler died. Then he analyzes the name of their business. The project was launched by a company called Yuga Labs. The Kali Yuga is a popular element of alt-right/traditionalist ideology. Yuga Labs has gone to the effort to embed the philosopher's name, Rene Guénon, who is credited for bringing Kali Yuga into Western thought and an alt-right icon inside one of their puzzles. Rips further scrutinized their pseudonyms, looking for clues. Gargamel, a character from the Smurfs who is acknowledged as an anti-Semitic depiction of a Jewish person, also a common term used on 4chan to discuss Jews. When called out, Gargamel removed all Smurf references from his profile. The theory on the other key founder is a bit more convoluted. Gordon Goner said he chose his name because it was similar to Joey Ramone. Rips calls this a lie, asserting it was actually an anagram with a single racist solution. Drongo is common 4chan in Australian slang for stupid, so stupid Negro. The probability of picking a name that is also a racist anagram is about 1 in 750 billion. Writers frequently use anagrams in literary, and often used within video games that Yuga has stated they play. The final bullet concerns Gargamel's response to an interview. He states that the project was part of a larger vision, which helped flesh out the idea. Gargamel quotes a philosopher that went to school with Hitler. Let the unutterable be conveyed unutterably. Rip suggests this proves the entire project has a hidden encrypted meaning. There are many connections between the two. Seems strange if they are just cartoon apes, no? What are their other meanings? They've yet to explain and seem very evasive. The alt-right is known for this tactic of hidden images and innuendo. The site ends with a paragraph warning viewers of increasingly hateful offshoots. Rips calls for people to spread the word, comment on influencer pages, and alert the press. He points to his storied online past, fancying himself as an expert in the field of internet culture. A month later, the two core founders were doxxed. The page kept updating with the new details in visual flair. Many revelations came from their identities, such as Gargamel's blog. Unfortunately for Greg Solano, he was a fan of Nazi-inspired fiction. He wrote his thesis paper on 2666, a book set in Nazi Germany with a protagonist named Nazi physician Hans Reiter. It made him contemplate writing his own novel blending real and fake history. There was much less concrete information on Gordon Goner's real identity, Wiley. The closest is an unverified user calling themselves crypto-fascists. People then started to dig a little too deep into the unidentified other two founders of the project. Some pointed out that Emperor Tomato Ketchup shares their name with an old experimental Japanese film. The short imagines a future where kids have overthrown adults. It depicts nudity, animal abuse, racism, Nazis, and the KKK. Rips describes a scene in which a boy in a fascist uniform assaults an adult bride. The original film was banned in the US and other countries on grounds of being CP. It's worth mentioning, though, that there is also a famous Stereolabs album by the same name. The final founder left goes by the name No Sass. Rips asserts the No stands for New Order, stating the political order which Nazi Germany wanted to impose on the conquered areas under its dominion. SA stood for the party's original paramilitary, and SS was their main paramilitary. Thus, No Sass combines the Nazis' plans to spread their ideology with the two divisions meant to execute them. The page then links to a thread on 4chan discussing this theory. Many Anons called it schizo, denouncing the idea of esoteric Hitlerism and accused OP of being a plant. Immediate red flags notifying the poster is either a very confused Anon or a paid shill of some sort. The next update came after the launch of Yuga Labs' metaverse. Rips now felt Bored Apes resembled the variability of Pepe memes on 4chan. Emperor Tomato Ketchup named a character Stonehole Jackson, in reference to a Confederate general. Yuga Labs also admitted to being inspired by another NFT series called the Hash Masks. That project was made by Soon Tui Che, which is Latin for to each what he deserves. The phrase appeared at concentration camps and even those Prussian helmets we were talking about earlier. And this concludes the case presented on the website. Yuga Labs first responded with a thread in January. They state many of his claims had simpler, more innocent explanations. Their company was named after a villain from Zelda who could turn himself and others into 2D art. The logo had a skull because they were bored to death. It was meant to look ramshackle and divey. The founders were real-life friends with diverse backgrounds, one even being Jewish. Unfortunately, this did little to quell the backlash, as most people hated NFTs so much that they would jump on any bandwagon to attack them. The campaign trekked forward, spanning numerous Twitter spaces. Rips was interviewed by Know Your Meme, where the comments stood against him. Ryder Rips is literally involved in competing NFTs and is blatantly involved in attempted character assassination here, and you were stupid enough to believe and publish this. I wouldn't be surprised to learn he works for you too. The conspiracy theory truly went mainstream in June of 2022, when YouTuber Fillion uploaded Bored Ape Nazi Club. This hour-long documentary asserted that Rip's theory was correct, and that the entire project was a stunt by racist trolls.
One of the worst aspects of Chan culture is pseudo-intellectualism. What you have is a bunch of trolls who haven't seen the light of day, that have collectively convinced themselves they are based, woke, and have the answers to this world. They find solace in knowing specific information compared to normal people or normies. This is why it's considered esoteric.
As it turns out, the video was made with direct help from Ryder Rips, covering much of the evidence we went through before. The video largely takes these claims uncritically. However, there are new details, such as Rips being the source of the Bored Ape owners' docs. It also addresses their previous statements, like the name coming from Zelda. The video also shows No Sass and Emperor Tomato Ketchup's real names. The latter went on the record to state his name came from the Stereolabs album. Fillion dismisses this as plausible deniability. He explains the cult of Kek and how terrifying 4chan is, starting with the OK hand symbol. It leads to him claiming the phrase cowabunga is linked to the far right. He then shows a private Instagram belonging to one of the co-founders' wives.
They also use the word cowabunga to signify their alt-right beliefs to fellow members of the alt-right. It just so happens that one of Bored Ape's founder's wife had this exact lingo in her bio, which has now been deleted.
In hindsight, this video feels both conspiratorial and performative, with some pretty bizarre reaches.
And if you know anything about Lovecraft, he was a notorious white supremacist, often weaving his prejudices as the basis for his stories.
Bored Ape 1488 wears a prison uniform with the number 019807. If you take out the zeros, it shows a year, the year a Nazi died in prison. But what were they supposed to do? There's likely something questionable in any year they could have chosen. The prison numbers aren't even unique to Ape 1488. The Ace of Spades trait replaces the helmet cards with a red joker. Fillion claims that this is a reference to the J stamped on Jews during the Holocaust.
The card in the Bored Ape helmet has a letter J on it, which would indicate a Jack of Spades, not an ace. The founders of this project are not sloppy writers and wouldn't get history wrong if it meant they could include yet another racist reference. Maybe this explains it. Based on a 1938 decree in Nazi Germany, every Jew in Germany had to carry an identification card marked with J for Jewish at all times.
A substantial portion of the video explains an ARG by Yuga Labs, with a prize worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The complexity is used to show what they're capable of, suggesting the solution may even be a dog whistle itself.
This answer is different than all the others, considering it is a drink that is meant to be ingested. Going off that theme, perhaps this is a metaphor for taking the red pill, as it sometimes appears red in color. Aperol also just has the word ape in it.
The word bingo is tied to the 2019 direct-to-video horror movie The Banana Splits.
Bingo and his friends are animatronics created by Carl to entertain children as the Banana Splits. However, after the show is cancelled, Bingo and his friends start a killing spree. You want to know something even creepier? Bingo only has 3 lines in the movie.
I wonder how the show's gonna end. Time's almost up. Time's almost up.
Bingo's last and most famous words. The only words Bingo ever says sounds just like accelerationism.
I truly don't get what this was supposed to prove. If we go by this theory, the creators watched an obscure, poorly rated direct-to-video movie, remembered one of 3 lines from the antagonist, and referenced the character by embedding the word bingo into the end of their puzzle. The rest of his solutions aren't much better.
My theory is that the primate answers of this puzzle are a direct reference to the founders of the project, and Aperol could be seen as the red pill.
Now at the time, Bored Apes had 6 artists. The most well-known was Seneca, who drew the base and designed several major traits. Rips confronted her in private, and she denied having input over those elements. Honestly, Ryder, I was kind of a fan of you, but you're coming at me kind of hard without knowing my full story. I didn't have anything to do with the racist art, and I agree it's abhorrent. The video ends with a call to action, demanding the end of the Bored Ape Yacht Club. He called for viewers to speak out with the hashtag #BurnBAYC, with burning being equivalent to destroying an NFT. It then cuts to footage from Planet of the Apes.
I want every celebrity, actor, athlete, and influencer to burn their f***ing ape. I want to make such a f***ing shitstorm that everyone from Steph Curry to Post Malone to Jimmy Fallon is forced to act.
For what it's worth, the video is well presented with flashy visuals. It successfully delivered the message, garnering 1 million views in less than 2 weeks. The hashtag started trending, and the internet wondered if something darker lurked beneath the surface. This is where things get even more perplexing. The prevailing attitude in the movement was anti-NFT. However, Fillion's video ends by promoting 2 projects by Ryder Rips. The first was a royalty-free marketplace for Yuga Labs NFTs. The next was his version of the project titled Ryder Rips Bored Ape Yacht Club. It was functionally identical, minus the offending traits.
Oh, and if you see my profile picture, don't be fooled. It doesn't contain any racist imagery. It's also from the Ryder Rips Bored Ape Yacht Club collection.
The collection launched a month prior, with Rips arguing it was a satire of BAYC and NFTs as a whole. He had done a similar stunt with CryptoPunks, reminting them to test the boundaries of IP law. Both projects received DMCAs, although they were rescinded without explanation.
To piss off ape profile pictures and amplify his own research, Ryder created Ryder Rips Bored Ape Yacht Club. Ryder won a DMCA takedown request against Yuga Labs, solidifying the point that you can't copy an NFT. Ryder also set his royalties to 0%. In this case, it's truly not about the money.
Ultimately, RR Yacht Club sold 9,500 NFTs, totaling to approximately $1.6 million. But the battle was far from over. There were evidently serious flaws in their arguments. If you'll recall, the impetus was that bored apes were racial caricatures. It's true that throughout history, such imagery was used to dehumanize, but it's unclear what outgroup they're meant to represent. Plus, the term ape-in was popular in crypto at the time, slang the founders used themselves. Aping is when a cryptocurrency trader buys a token shortly after the token project launch without conducting thorough research. The ADL itself rejected many of Ryder's claims, only conceding a few accessories could be offensive. They specifically denied the Bored Ape logo having any resemblance to a Nazi skull and bones. They stated, "The monkey skull resembles it in no way except insofar as skulls resemble each other to a certain degree." If that wasn't enough, the emblem he shows isn't even authentic. It's only a decade old and has no significant footprint before the essay. It was never standard for the Nazi symbol to have 18 teeth. That is more common in depiction of ape skulls, with this clip art having that exact number of teeth as well. Then you have all the talk about old helmets, obscure slurs and anagrams, and the fact that the day that Hitler died isn't exactly celebrated by white supremacists. The conspiracy really falls apart under scrutiny. The first official response was a letter from the founders. It shows emails from the designer of the logo and what they sent him for reference. They were also in contact with the ADL, stating, "The ADL quite literally laughed at the suggestion that the term Kali Yuga had anything to do with white supremacy." They also offer explanations for their names. Tomato reiterated his name was from a popular album, as he collected vinyls. No Sass was an inside joke because Gordon could get sassy in the mornings with him. Goner came from the fact that Gordon was in and out of hospitals over the past 10 years. The Gordon part was inspired by Joey Ramone. Gargamel's name came from StarCraft. In many games, high-level players will smurf by playing on low-level accounts. That's what he meant by hating smurfs. We came up with our pseudonyms on the fly right before launching the BAYC. A few weeks later, Yuga Labs sued Ryder Rips, an alleged co-conspirator, and 10 anonymous individuals. The only other person named was Jeremy Cahan, who helped with his NFTs. It notably doesn't include defamation, despite publicly calling his claims disinformation. Regardless, it looked to be a landmark case, determining the legality of copying an NFT. Rips hired several lawyers to mount his defense. They fought in the media, with a spokesperson for Yuga Labs exposing the artist's own bad behavior. A representative for Yuga Labs declined to comment for the story. The spokesperson did, however, share links to evidence of Rip's bad behavior, including his late 2000s Tumblr page in which he posted Hillerama face mashups of Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, and a portrait of Clinton emblazoned with the N-word. It certainly wasn't lost on people that for Rips, it could have been an elaborate stunt. The question appeared in Art News, where he distinguished himself from cancel culture. Rips felt that Bored Apes represented the strategies of troll culture infecting the mainstream. He argued it wasn't a culture shift, but a strategy pushed by powerful players like Peter Thiel. Interestingly, Yuga Labs was careful in not pursuing a copyright case. According to an IP expert interviewed by Art News, that area could get legally messy. While their terms and conditions state NFT owners own the rights, the site later confers a commercial license. You cannot have it both ways. Either you're giving them rights or you're giving them a license. Writer Rips sought to dismiss the lawsuit through an anti-slap motion. It was denied on grounds that RR Yacht Club did not express an idea or point of view. In February of 2023, Gordon Goner spoke about his health issues. He was frequently hospitalized due to a bowel disease, and was recently diagnosed with heart failure. This motivated him to finally set the record straight. Goner explained Hinduism was a part of his personal life. The name Yuga Labs was chosen because Yuga means era, and they were creating things for a new era of the internet. He then points out that no one except very obscure fringe groups used Kali Yuga in a hateful way. That April, Yuga Labs scored a massive victory. The judge ruled RRBAYC was not protected by the First Amendment. This ruling was made worse by the fact that they continued to sell after the lawsuit began. He found Rips infringed on unregistered marks and engaged in cybersquatting. As it was put, the evidence is clear that defendants have simply used BAYC to create an NFT collection that points to the exact same images as the BAYC NFTs. That October, Rips and his co-defendant were ordered to pay $1.6 million. That includes all profits from the collection as well as statutory damages. He was also ordered to pay their legal fees, reportedly upwards of $7 million. The judge also issued a permanent injunction against Rips and Kahan. They were ordered to forfeit 2 domains and accounts related to their ape market project. Rips was later interviewed on the subject, but spoke in code. He referred to Yuga Labs as the monkey fraud company. The artist doubled down on his narrative, noting they still had appeals. This case is worth dedicating myself to in order to protect myself, my friends, my family, and my freedoms, as well as a means to verify reality and truth. As of writing, it's unclear if they will end up satisfying the judgment, which now totals $8.9 million. This lawsuit has really derailed the video, so to get back on subject, we're going to have to jump back in time a bit. When the scandal took off, it was June of 2022. A year later, the NFT market was losing steam, and Bored Apes were leading the brutal plunge. That summer, Bored Ape Yacht Club crashed to a 2-year low, down 88% from its peak. That was despite releasing a sewer pass where you can get chase poop in a game called Dookie Dash. It was pulled due to rampant cheating. The decline led many to wonder exactly how much celebrities lost on their investment. Justin Bieber bought a Bored Ape in 2022 for $1.3 million, and it now sits at being worth only $60,000. If that wasn't bad enough, Bieber alongside other celebrities were named in a class action lawsuit filed against Yuga Labs. It was brought forth by regretful Bored Ape investors, who claim they were duped. The suit alleges the endorsements and heavy promotion of the project were manufactured. This includes the $24.4 million auction house sale we mentioned earlier. They claim that the anonymous highest bidder was allegedly the disgraced crypto hedge fund FTX. They felt this lack of disclosure created the misleading impression that NFTs went mainstream and real people were actually paying millions of dollars for them. Yuga Labs denied these claims, calling them baseless accusations. Steph Curry, one of the celebrities implicated, had all claims against him dismissed with prejudice. The law firm behind the suit quietly removed its page from their website, but it's possible there may be later developments to this case. What is clear is that after these lawsuit risks, as well as people calling the project racist, most celebrities just wanted nothing to do with it anymore. With the value of their apes continuing to plummet, the community was in shambles. Their only solace was Ape Fest, an annual event where owners could hang out. That year it took place in Hong Kong, with Yuga Labs aiming to rebuild trust and excitement. Unfortunately, the use of UV stage lights left many with eye burn, extreme pain, and impaired vision. One attendee was hospitalized, narrowly avoiding permanent damage. At least 15 people were affected. Yuga Labs issued a statement estimating less than 1% of the crowd suffer these symptoms. But this did nothing to quell the people who wanted to dunk on NFTs by all means necessary. The company, once valued at $4 billion, continued working on their metaverse. They held numerous events in their online world, to little acclaim. This seems to be their path moving forward, with plans to create several blockchain games. They also hope to make their NFTs compatible with physical goods. Meanwhile, Bored Apes have continued to fall in price, hitting a staggering 93% decline from its peak. As the spiral continues, Yuga Labs has to prove owning one is actually worth it. There's clearly a plan, but only time will tell if they'll be able to adapt to the times. If they do, they'll be able to regain their former glory. If not, they'll fall into obscurity at the fringes of public consciousness. Some might even gleefully say they're already there.